Welcome to this edition of In-Depth Alaska. I'm Tracy Sinclair. After learning of the death of Pope Francis early Monday morning, Associate Producer Casandra Mancl spoke with Father Madison Hayes about the times he met Pope Francis and the legacy he leaves behind. Here's an extended version of that conversation.
So we just heard about the Pope's death several hours ago. What are your initial thoughts and feelings of it?
Thanks for reaching out, Cassandra. The whole church is in mourning, so we've entered into a 9-day period of mourning. I think everybody was startled by the news this morning, although the Pope's health has not been well, but everybody saw him on Easter Sunday. In fact, Easter Sunday, I came back after all the masses and Easter dinner, and the Holy Father gives what's called the Ubi et Orbi blessing to the people all over the world. And anybody can receive that blessing through any mode of communication. So the last thing I did before I went to bed last night is pulled up the Ubi et Orbi blessing on my phone. And the Holy Father from the balcony blessed all the people in the world. And I made the sign of the cross and then went to bed and then woke up this morning and had an email from the Archbishop that our Holy Father had passed, which was startling because I had just seen him before I went to bed. And so the church prays for the Holy Father these days. And so we've entered into a time of mourning and prayer.
So we know you have a bit of history in the Vatican, and I think based on that photo behind you, have you met the Pope before?
Several times, yes. I lived in Rome for 5 years and actually in the Vatican for 4 at the seminary I attended at the Pontifical North American College. So I could see the Pope's window where he would come out every Sunday to give a blessing and exhortation to the people. I could see that window from my rooftop at the seminary. So we were very close to the Holy Father. And I lived there 1 year as a priest as well. During that time, I met him personally 4 times. And a few times that was with my capacity with the military archdiocese. So I was with Archbishop Berlioz, one time in the Apostolic Palace to meet the Holy Father and greet him. And once with Archbishop Belisario, who introduced me to the Holy Father as well. And so I got to know the Holy Father very well, just not only in those 4 personal meetings, but also, you know, on Sundays going down to the square, or when my parents came for Christmas to Rome, we attended the Christmas Mass with the Holy Father. So he was always around and he was always very close to the people.
Yeah, and with your connection with Pope Francis, how do you think a lot of people are feeling right now, knowing that his time has come, and a lot of people are grieving. What would you say to that?
But I think the Holy Father really led by example his whole pontificate, but especially this year in the Jubilee year, as pilgrims of hope. He encouraged all of us, even in his last days, showing us his resiliency and also humility in the way that he lived the last days of his life, that he always had that great hope, especially in these days after Easter. You know, Jesus Christ is our hope and Christ is risen. And so, although there is sadness and sorrow in this time of mourning, but there's also great hope for the church, that the Holy Spirit will provide us another pontiff, as he always does, and that the Lord will have mercy on our Holy Father and bring him home.
I have met people before who have been to the Vatican and seen the Pope either from a distance or whatever, and I know that there's like some special spirit that is with them, and they there's just a lot of emotion that comes with seeing the Pope, even just like at a glance. What do you think that, do you think you might be able to speak a little bit about, what that feeling was like?
Well, this year in particular, during the Jubilee year, many people are going to the Eternal City in Rome. and have experienced the closeness of the Holy Father. And being in St. Peter's, like you said, has a spiritual, also an emotional effect on many people because of the beauty, but also because that's where the church, it's the heart of the church, and it changes people's lives. I know people who've visited the Vatican and seen the Holy Father waving out of his window, and it changed their life. And so the spiritual experience that many people will have this year as they continue the Jubilee year and hope, but also just regular tourists. St. Peter's in the Vatican is the #1 most visited building every day in the whole world. So more people go through St. Peter's every day than any other building in the world. And there's a reason for that. Something draws people, as Christ said, when I'm lifted up, I will draw all people to myself. And so many people are drawn not only by the beauty and, of course, the good food in Rome and all those other things that people do when they travel to Italy, but also that spiritual closeness with the church and with Jesus.
And what was it like being able to study at the Vatican for like 4 years, and to be close to that, that spirit, and also be close to, closely working with the church and the Pope?
It was a tremendous gift when the Archbishop at the time, Paul Aitchen, sent me to Rome. And I lived in the Vatican, but I studied at 2 different universities in the city, one with the Dominicans at the University of St. Thomas Aquinas, Pontifical University, and the Alfonsianum with the Redemptorist priests. And I got to know Rome very well. I would, you walk the city of Rome. That's what you do when you're there, because many of the streets are very skinny, and so I got very familiar with Italian culture and language and the people. And one thing that I gained from being there is the great treasures that the church has worldwide. So many people come to Rome for so many different things. For instance, the canonization of saints. So I was able to attend those. The Holy Week liturgies, Palm Sunday, Holy Thursday, Good Friday, and Easter, all there I experienced in the Vatican. The many beautiful churches, and just the general, being close to the Holy Father when you're studying to be a priest, you develop a special love for the Holy Father, which I did. And so the whole time I was in seminary and the whole time I've been a priest, Pope Francis has been my Holy Father. And so he'll be dearly missed, I know, by many people throughout the world.
And what do you think his legacy will be, after his passing?
I think Holy Father Francis always was an example of prayer and service and humility. For prayer, I think the starking image that may stand out for years to come is during COVID, when the Holy Father did adoration of the Most Blessed Sacrament in St. Peter's Square all alone. And it was a very somber moment, but a very prayerful moment for many people, as the Holy Father prayed for all those who were closed and locked in their homes. But he was always a man of prayer. He would especially pray to Our Lady whenever he went on an apostolic voyage to some country throughout the world. He would always go to Santa Maria Maggiore, St. Mary Major, one of the major basilicas in Rome, and pray to Our Lady Salus Populi Romani. And he showed a great devotional prayer to Our Lady. And so he led by prayer, he led by service. Of course, everybody knows his great acts of service, especially to the poor. He would go and visit those imprisoned. He would go and, as he said, to the peripheries, just to seek out those who were lost and bring them back. And so his example and leadership when it came to service, that great gospel witness, living out the evangelical counsels, was a great example for the church. And finally, humility. He was known to be a very humble, simple man until his last days. And I think that is a great example for the whole church, but also for the clergy, to take after the Holy Father and his living out of his simplicity.
Yeah. Is there, I don't know if I don't know if anyone in the Valley has been making any plans for, the church being open or having any events uh, in honor of Pope Francis. But do you know if there's anything going on, any events or prayer time for that?
Yes, the United States Conference of Catholic Bishops put out for all the dioceses in the United States liturgical guidelines for the death of the Holy Father. And so there's churches throughout the Valley and throughout the Archdiocese that will be participating in those liturgical celebrations. The tolling of the church bell 88 times for the life of the Holy Father, putting up an image of the Holy Father next to the Paschal candle. So it's Easter time, and the Paschal candle, the Easter candle, is in the sanctuary. So we'll place an image of the Holy Father with some black bunting or just black liturgical cloth next to that to symbolize the death of a pope. And there's also memorial masses for the dead that will be celebrated. And there's only one funeral mass that's celebrated to the pope, yet to be announced as far as I know. But the memorial masses and the other liturgical celebrations, also the faithful throughout the Archdiocese, including here in the Valley, can pray the office of the dead in the Liturgy of the Hour. So there's special prayers that the Church says at the passing of anyone, but the Holy Father in particular these days.
Also, that photo behind you, are you in that picture or?
I am. Do you want to see it?
Oh yeah, sure.
I don't know if you could see it very well. So that's when I met with the Holy Father during the ad limina visit with Archbishop Belisario in it was either late 2019 or early 2020. And I had brought an image of Our Lady of Bethlehem that I had gotten in the Holy Land during my trip there. And I asked the Holy Father to bless it for my mom. And we are laughing in that photo, actually. He's laughing and I'm laughing because I told him that I was from Alaska, and he told me that he had been to Alaska. But and I had known that already, but he only stopped over in an airplane on his way out to Japan. And so I told him that didn't count. In order to really visit Alaska, he had to come fishing with me. So I gave him an open invitation, and so we were laughing about that.
Is there anything else you want to mention, or say to people who are grieving right now, or anything else?
I would just encourage the faithful in particular to continue to pray for the repose of our soul, the repose of the soul of the Holy Father, as the whole church does these days, to go to church and participate in the liturgical celebrations in these days of mourning, to continue the pilgrimage of hope this Jubilee year. And now we have new reason for hope as the church awaits a new pontiff. And so the cardinals will all be making their way to Rome and start their prayer and deliberation to elect a new pope, which gives the church great hope. And so pray that the Holy Spirit may continue, as he always does, to guide our Holy Church. And for all those who aren't Catholic, we appreciate your solidarity in this moment. And so please keep us all in your prayers, and we thank you for those.
Thank you to Father Madison Hayes for speaking with us, and thank you for listening to In Depth Alaska. Please like and follow this podcast.